Hello and welcome. It seems like there's a car for every buyer these days. But what if I told you that there was a specific segment of the automotive market that was being underserved? One with an increasing number of buyers, but few if any cars specifically designed to serve those buyers. The segment in question is the ride-hailing industry and their drivers. Well, this being the Chinese market, there's always someone willing to step up and fill a gap. That brings us to this, the FAW Bestune NAT. NAT stands for Next Automatic Taxi, and today we are going to be giving you an inside look at how this car was specifically designed to serve both the passengers and drivers of the ride-hailing industry.
The NAT is a product of FAW, or First Auto Works, and is sold under their Bestune brand. FAW, the company behind the NAT, is China's oldest automotive manufacturer. It is best known for producing some of the most luxurious and expensive cars that have ever come out of China, including the Hongqi H9 that we previously reviewed on this channel.
Let's start by talking about the passenger part of that formula, shall we? But in order to do that, we need to get into the back seat first. Sliding doors. There are a variety of things that have been done to better accommodate rear seat passengers. The first and most obvious of which is the sheer amount of space available back here, particularly leg room. This is accomplished through some clever packaging. What that means is that the actual length of the NAT is that of an A segment or city car, but the wheelbase is that of a larger B segment vehicle.
That means you have plenty of room to stretch out, especially when sitting in what I would call the VIP seat, marked by the orange accents on the seat back. That's because the front passenger seat can be folded down and slid forward, allowing for even more space. Both rear seats are heated, and the faux leather seat material, while soft, is not particularly luxurious. This car is meant to seat thousands upon thousands of passengers in its lifetime, so I'd imagine durability was a larger priority.
Space is great and all, but a lot of cars offer space. Where the NAT continues to separate itself is in the small features that are scattered throughout the interior. Take, for example, the two USB ports that are very conveniently located here on the center armrest, rather than the much more common location of the back of the center console. Another thing, and one I've never seen in any other car, is this, an SOS button. There are 4 such buttons spread throughout the vehicle so that passengers and drivers alike can call emergency services in case of, well, an emergency. Other small features include things like this, a hook built into the back of the seat, as well as standard tinted windows. I want to point out one of my favorite little details as we get out of the car here, and that is this little mirror right here. As someone who frequently commutes by bike, I understand the danger presented by people who just jump out of the side of the car without first looking at oncoming traffic. Now, normally people would have to turn around and do that, and they can't be bothered. But here with this little mirror, I have a clean view of everything that is coming from behind. It's an elegant and cheap solution to a common problem. Let's talk a little bit about the exterior styling as I transition over to the driver's seat. FAW describes the overall shape of this vehicle as a one-box design, and I would say that's pretty darn accurate. It's clearly made to fit as much stuff as possible on the inside. On the front end here, we have the digital raindrop design that's found on most Bestune models that you would see in their showroom. Where things really get interesting, however, well, that's on the rear end, where we have a concave design somewhat similar to the European MPVs you might be familiar with. It's not pretty, but what it does give you is a decent amount of space in the rear cargo area, about 336 liters. I mentioned before that the NAT was built just as much with drivers in mind as it was passengers, and that fact is apparent from the second you sit in the driver's seat here, because it is noticeably wider and hence more comfortable than the front passenger seat. Another useful feature for drivers, this seat can recline up to 177 degrees, making it a pretty good place to take a nap while you wait for your next passenger. This car is equipped with the T3 Travel Package, which is essentially the package that makes it specifically designed for ride-hailing drivers and the ride-hailing industry. What that means is a few unique features. Take, for example, this facial recognition camera here that will not allow the vehicle to operate unless the registered driver is sitting behind the wheel. Another, and I think more interesting feature, however, is the integration of ride-hailing apps with the center infotainment screen and system. What that means is once a driver has registered their profile in this system, they can accept or decline rides through their app with the simple touch of a button here on the steering wheel. In addition to that, drivers also get their own SOS button over here on the left, as well as an extra USB port. Now you might be thinking, why does the driver need another USB port over here? Well, here in the Chinese market at least, many drivers will operate two different ride-hailing apps on the same time through two different phones. That means they need more USB ports to keep all of them charged. The interior design of this car is probably a little bit more interesting than it really needs to be for its intended purpose. I like this two-tier design, especially because there's plenty of space here for both driver and passenger, as well as some storage areas here and here in the center consoles. Material qualities are, well, they're on the hard plastic side, but this is supposed to be a car that's driven all the time with tons of different passengers coming in and out, so that's to be expected.
Driver convenience and comfort is paramount, but so is the actual driving experience. After all, if you're going to be behind the wheel for countless hours, then you better hope that it isn't a pain to drive.
Potential NAT drivers can relax in that respect because the NAT is without really any major headaches in terms of driving experience. In fact, I would say the driving experience is exactly what you would expect from a car at this price point and with its intended purpose, which is to say, there's not really anything remotely interesting going on here. There are three driving modes: Standard, Eco, and Eco Plus. The fact that there is no Sport mode is a refreshing bit of honesty from the car industry, in my opinion. Regardless of which mode you choose, there is a single 100 kilowatt motor up front that provides, I would say, perfectly adequate power for this kind of application. Suspension-wise, well, very simple suspension. I believe McPherson struts up front and non-independent in the rear, but it provides a similar ride to the kind of cars that usually serve as ride-hailing vehicles, so again, perfectly adequate. Steering-wise, there's not a lot of feel, not surprising in that respect, but it does have very light controls, something that honestly, if I were a driver, someone who had to drive this car all day long, I would really appreciate that.
But the real concern for a driver who's considering switching to an electric vehicle is certainly range and operating costs. Only available with a 55 kilowatt-hour battery pack, the NAT has an NEDC range of 419 kilometers. On a fast charger, it'll go from 20 to 80% in 30 minutes, but it's also equipped for battery swapping, something that FAW says will take only 3 minutes. According to FAW, that means an operating cost of about 4 cents per kilometer. The NAT comes with a suite of safety features, including forward collision warning and autonomous emergency braking.
FAW Bestune isn't the first company to come out and say that they were going to build a purpose-built ride-hailing car, but I think they're the first ones to actually go ahead and do it. As the ride-hailing industry continues to mature and the future timeline for fully autonomous cars continues to be a very fuzzy one, I do believe that there is a distinct place in the market for a car just like the NAT. All right, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook, links in the description, and of course, like, subscribe, and hit the bell.